The 74th book that I completed in 2024 is Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5. I read this book about 15 years ago, and I liked it a lot when I read it, a lot. Like, I thought it was one of the best books that I had ever read. And then I read Breakfast of Champions, and I read Cat's Cradle, and I read the Monkey House short story collection. I can't remember the name of that exactly. And I totally fell out of love with Vonnegut. And I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but he just doesn't do it for me. To the point that if somebody said, read another Kurt Vonnegut book besides Slaughterhouse 5, I would dread it. If I had to read it, I would read it, but I hated Breakfast for Champions. I hated Cat's Cradle. His attempts at sci-fi and his attempts at satirical work just doesn't hit me right at all. And again, I know that's very unpopular. I know how popular Kurt Vonnegut is right now. I know that there's a lot of Kurt Vonnegut studies going on. But I think the reason why this book stands out from the other two books that I've read by Vonnegut is that there's just so much less attempt at satire in this book. There's so much less attempt at science fiction. It's there, but its metaphor is much more obvious, and this is a serious book about the fire bombings at Dresden and Billy Pilgrim, and it's just a really good book that I would consider not science fiction, not satire, but really a book about war. This is a book about World War II more than it is a book about satire and about science fiction, and so it really works for me. I don't know that it's one of my favorite books of all time, which is what I thought 15 years ago when I read it. But it still definitely stands the test of time. I really enjoyed it. It's an easy 6-hour read, probably 7-hour read maximum. And I could see myself returning to this book. And if somebody said to me, Vonnegut has other novels that are similar to Slaughterhouse 5, I'd be happy to read those. But if they're more in the ilk of Cat's Cradle or Breakfast for Champions, then I'm kind of out. I feel the same way about Ray Bradbury. I did a review a few videos ago on Ursula Le Guin. I just don't think that this type of book that sits in between fantasy and science fiction or uses science fiction as satire, I just don't think that genre is necessarily for me. But Slaughterhouse 5 is. Really good book. Highly recommended, even if you don't like Vonnegut.